Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Teeaboo and I'm here for the metal poll results. I'm calling it that, I think, because of the way that the graphs all look. They all kind of look like this, and that's sort of the opposite of the way that they often look in these polls, which is more like this. A lot of middle poll results. We're gonna do this one a little bit differently because there's some stuff to talk about. But here are the graphs. There they are. That's what they look like. This is what came in as results today. Huge number of responses on this one, 717. And I spent a good chunk of this morning going through you can export a CSV of all the results, and I went through that. I put it into a Sheets document and just went through it, just looking around, just making sure that there wasn't any funny business mostly. And now I can't be entirely 100% positive of that, but I would expect that if somebody was, signing into many accounts and trying to do many things, or trying to, make multiple Patreon accounts in order to vote multiple times, or whatever they were trying to do, that I would end up seeing some patterns, and I didn't really see those patterns. I'm a little bit surprised by that. I thought people would definitely cheat, but nobody has seemed to be cheating so far. So I'm relatively confident in the validity of these poll results, and these are the graphs. As you can see, there are some middle results. And as you can also see, it's pretty obvious what won this one. At least to me. The most obviously meh show on this list is Kimetsu no Yaiba, which is a little bit surprising, but also not that surprising. I kind of thought that this would happen. Kimetsu no Yaiba has fallen off in its grand popularity. This hype beast of a monster show that still has the claim, as far as I know, of the most popular animated film ever made via its movie, has just sort of slipped out of people's imaginations and memories a little bit, at least insofar as what they want me to watch, and we have to keep that in mind. But it's kind of fallen off. Will we get to it at some point? I'm sure we will. It's still classic shonen. It's still gonna be fun. It's still probably really awesome in terms of Ufotable's production design, and all that sounds great to me. But we won't be watching it starting soon, and we'll have to keep it in the back burner for a little while because it's been on a few polls now, and it's time for it to leave the limelight, I think. Jujutsu Kaisen made a pretty admirable showing, I would say. It's definitely leaning toward the positive side pretty strongly, and it's not too polarizing. There's not a lot of hate for it or a lot of strong love for it, but clearly a winner show. Just not on this poll going to be a winner show. Sort of like Kimetsu, Jujutsu came out a little bit later, so maybe it's had less time for the hype to die down. But what I've heard about Jujutsu is that it's just good shonen taken to the nines and done really, really solidly. And that sounds great. Then we get these, if we're counting it, the runner-up for this poll. The runner-up is Mushoku Tensei, and it got an enormous amount of positive votes, and a relatively small, compared to its previous showings, a relatively small number of negative votes, which I find very interesting. I don't know how to attribute that to anything, because I don't know how people are thinking, I just know what results they put in. But maybe people are having their opinions swayed about this show by the consistent, and I do mean consistent, commenters who are commenting and arguing rather solidly, some of them. Some of them are just like, dumb idiot, watch Mushoku when you watch this thing, which is the standard. But some of them are arguing relatively eloquently for the merits of Mushoku Tensei, and maybe that's swaying some people's decisions. Maybe not. I don't know. I can't know. But I can theorize. Regardless of the shows on this poll, the one with by far the most positivity is Mushoku Tensei. It's also got the second most negativity, if you count them that way, which is interesting that it got less negative votes than Kimetsu. Just an intriguing thing to point out, I suppose. But it got a hell of a lot of strong positive support for Mushoku Tensei. And then, to probably no one's surprise, but a little bit to my surprise, I didn't know what was going to happen when I put this in there. People have been like commenting and been like, oh, you're just putting this on there because you know that nothing else will win and this will win. I have no idea. I had no clue what T Chooses would turn into or what would happen there. But I suppose that some people could have predicted it, and I could have predicted it. A lot of people don't want to say no to that, because it seems like I'll probably choose an okay option regardless, I hope. I hope that my audience feels like they can trust me to some extent to choose something relatively good. I don't know if they do. And a lot of people want to see what that ends up being. It also allays some of the problem with having to vote. When you have to vote on stuff, it's like you have to rank things in your mind, and maybe you don't know what you want to rank, and leaving it to somebody else seems like a little bit easier, Not to say that you're taking the lazy way, but maybe you're taking the lazy way, and the lazy way is to put that responsibility on me. And I'll take it. Here are the numbers, by the way, if you want to see the actual numerical breakdown of the way that things look. The numbers get a little bit closer. It's pretty interesting because we get those positive score totals that end up being 726 for Mushoku Tensei, 786 for Me Choosing, 574 for Jujutsu Kaisen, and 365 for Kimetsu no Yaiba. And when we look at those, sorry, those were the positive scores. When you look at the negative scores on Mushoku Tensei are not much higher than the negative scores on Jujutsu Kaisen or well, they're lower by far than the ones on Kimetsu no Yaiba. Now, I have a theory about this, and that theory is that Mushoku Tensei stans will always hell no the other shows in order to get their own standing higher. That's why I like to separate out the positives and the negatives and stuff, so that I can see if there's a pattern like that, and clearly there's probably a pattern like that, and I don't blame you for doing that. It's part of the system. You can vote hell no on everything else and vote hell yeah on the show that you want, and somebody else can do the same thing on the show that they want, and your fervor for that individual show will balance out. And I think that's fair. I think that works to some extent. I'm thinking about maybe altering the math so that it's like 1.5 times instead of 2 times or something along those lines so that you can't completely sway it in that direction. But that's all sort of beside the point. The point is that the winner of this poll, if I were not an option on it, would almost certainly be Mushoku Tensei. And so I'm going to rewatch Symphogear. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for giving all you Symphogear lovers heart attacks, but we pulled for that last time and nobody wanted to see it, and that's totally okay. And for those who are just watching this and haven't seen it or aren't on my Patreon and are just following and interested, hey, if you are a Symphogear stan, I did recently go through for about an hour and I watched all of the cool opening scenes for every show, for every season. You know, there's like a big bombastic opening sequence, the shuttle sequence, the other ones. I watched all of those and just laughed my ass off and had a really good time. And that video is patron only because there's no way to do a timer version or put it up on YouTube. And the company that owns the copyright for Symphogear is rather litigious, you might say. So let's not fuck with that. But I'm not going to do a Symphogear rewatch. I'm going to put that off to the side. I am going to watch Mushoku Tensei. Stay, don't run away, please stay. I know you're going to click away. I know so many of you are going to click away. Now, some of you are going to be celebrating and shooting fireworks off into the sky, and others of you are going to be, no, oh god, not Mushoku Tensei, not that one. So here's my thing that I want to say here. The discussion around Mushoku Tensei has been the most polarized that I've seen in years around a piece of media, and I'm fascinated by it. I think it's really interesting, and I think it demonstrates something to me, which is, I will bet going into it that Mushoku Tensei is probably no holds barred, is probably a masterpiece worthy show. It's probably in the 9-10 range. It's probably excellent. It's probably well designed and well put together, and the world building is probably really interesting, and there's a reason it has as many stans and fans as it does. The reason that it has so many detractors is also pretty obvious to me, because every time that somebody comes up with a detraction from the show, it's always about one thing. It's always about objectionable content. There's something in the show, and I still don't know what it is, and I don't want to. Please don't tell me. I know that it's sexual in nature. I don't know specifically what it is, but I can guess. I'm going to guess that it has to do with sexual assault, and I'm going to guess that it portrays it in at least a gray light, if not potentially what might be seen as to some viewers as a positive light. And that's not good. That's bad, right? Well, yeah, obviously, that's bad. But the tribalist response that I've seen to it, where either you're over that, it seems, and are calling the show a masterpiece, or you're on that and you're calling the show something that nobody should ever watch ever, calling it a travesty, calling it a pedophile anime. I've seen the lolicon anime. I've seen the sexual assault anime. Sexual assault isekai, I think, was the wording. Every time somebody detracts from the show, it's never on the merits of the show. It's on the content that's presented. And I don't think that's reasonable. Now, that doesn't mean that it's unreasonable for you to dislike a show because of the content that's presented, or more accurately, to just not want to watch it. It's okay to be triggered by certain things, and I'm sorry for even using the word triggered, because the word triggered fucking triggers people. But it's okay. If a piece of media contains content that you find personally objectionable, it's okay for you to look away from it. It's okay for you to never watch it. As I've said before, there's infinite media out there. But having that visceral reaction to uncomfortable content, and thus avoiding the objectionable or uncomfortable content, is not how we grow as individuals or as consumers of media. It's really important to see other perspectives, especially the ones we disagree with, especially the ones that are wrong. Hell, it's fun to watch things that we think are wrong or portray things in a way that we think are wrong. I do it all the time. I criticize the shows that I watch all the time, and I plan to turn that same critical lens on whatever we watch, especially something that seems so fascinatingly polarizing as Mushoku Tensei. Avoiding the objectionable content is not how we grow, and my goal, more than anything, really is to grow. It's to grow myself, it's to grow this group of people, and it's to help all of you grow in the way that you watch anime. I get comments fairly frequently, and they shine a light on my soul. They make me so damned happy when people say that I've changed the way that they view media. That's a huge compliment to me. Or even that I've changed the way that they think. What more could I possibly ask for? Like, that's awesome. That's fucking great. And I don't think that would happen as frequently as it has if I weren't willing to watch shows that I find objectionable, or if I were one who dismissed shows just because they contain something that I find objectionable. Censoring something, or putting it to the side, or preventing other people from watching it, or calling it immoral because it contains something that is immoral, doesn't make sense to me. A piece of media that contains an immoral act is not itself immoral, is it? It also doesn't necessarily mean that that piece of media endorses or promotes that behavior. If it does, that might be immoral, promoting or endorsing the behavior, but that's rare, really quite rare for that to happen. So what I suspect is going on with Mushoku Tensei, and we will find out as we watch it, and we will be careful, I will be careful, I should say, as I watch it, to take everything that I see and examine it critically before I speak on it, if I can. I'll do my damned best, and that's a promise to you. I forgot the whole portion of my sentence. I forgot what I was saying. Fuck. I'm gonna go back through this when I was editing and think I'm such an idiot. Ugh. Oh, what I think is happening with Mushoku Tensei is that there is action taken inside the show, and maybe characterization of certain characters in the show that has led some people to believe that the show is promoting certain types of activity. And I don't think that's probably the case. In fact, I think that the show is probably going to indict that activity instead. At least that's my hope. We'll see. Or maybe the show will just leave it out there for us to indict or endorse as we please. That's a way to do media that's actually really valuable. To show real human darkness, or even inhuman darkness, to show the capabilities of the human spirit, especially when it comes to our capacity for evil, is not to lie, and it's not to be immoral. It's to show us potential paths that we ourselves could, and maybe have, walked down. And maybe, by examining them in a place that's a little bit further away from the realities, maybe we can watch those objectionable things and form opinions about them that can translate into the real world in a way that makes them, makes it in a way that's valuable. I hope that's what I can do with Mushoku Tensei. And so, that's what I'm going to watch. That's the poll. Those are the results, and that's my decision, both as if I were to take T chooses out and let the poll results lie as they are, or if I were to take T chooses on my own, my choice from the beginning of this poll, before anyone wrote anything about this poll itself, before anyone voted, my choice was Mushoku Tensei. I didn't tell anybody that. I didn't write it. I guess if I were smart, I would have written it down somewhere in like a locked digital box or something so that it opened and I could show you a piece of paper that I had folded or something like that. Oh, that's what I should have done. When I made the poll video, I should have put it into a sealed envelope and then kept it in every video. And then finally, when I made this video, I should have taken it out and opened it and been like, look what I chose at the beginning, everybody. Oh, well, I didn't think of it. I should have thought of it, but that was essentially what I did. I put it into my mind. I was going to watch Mushoku Tensei if T chooses won the poll. And I had a feeling that there was a chance that Mushoku Tensei might win the poll on its own. But I also thought maybe Jujutsu would pull through. There was a lot of hype around it still. Maybe something weird would happen. I don't know. But this is what has happened, and this is the way that we're going to go with it. I hope that by saying what I've said in this video, at least part of it has sunk in, and that some of the people who find the idea of watching something like Mushoku Tensei objectionable, either because they've watched some of it themselves and fell off for whatever reason, or because they've read or watched people that they trust talking about this show and its nature, whoever that is, whatever their opinions are, whatever their leanings are, I hope that I've convinced a few of you to come on this journey with me anyway, to come and see if we can criticize and actively read this piece of media in a way that's valuable to us, and maybe transition something that feels objectionable and wrong into something that's valuable and useful, maybe precisely because of its objectionable nature. Yeah. Hope that some of you will come along with me. Those of you who are shooting off fireworks, pipe down and don't light anything on fire. We'll start Mushoku Tensei next week on the Patreon. I have to go and download it and I have to figure out which subtitles to use and all of that jazz. We'll start it next week on the Patreon, so come on, sign up. That actually coincides with the month ticking over, so don't sign up now, actually. I doubt you've ever heard a YouTuber come to you and say, please don't sign up for my Patreon, but actually, please don't sign up for my Patreon because you'll get charged immediately when you sign up, and then you'll get charged on the 1st as well. Sign up on the 1st, and then you'll have all month, and next week when Mushoku Tensei comes out, you'll get it as soon as possible. Cool? Cool. Love you all. Thanks for voting in the poll. This was a kind of a raucous one and a very fun one to watch occur and watch happen. I didn't really watch the poll results as they came in. I just kind of left it in by the wayside and focused on other things. But the conversations and discussions on the poll video and in the Discord have been interesting. And for the most part, not terribly heated, which I appreciate. So thank you all for being relatively civil and for voting in this edition of a Teeaboo poll. There will be a new poll coming up relatively not that soon, but in a while, in a couple of months, for whatever will replace 86, and we'll see what goes on there. Cool? Cool. And also we're like halfway through Poon Poon now, so a new manga reading poll might be in order. I don't know if we're gonna have time before JoJo's launches. We might just wait and then switch Tuesday slot to JoJo's for a little while and then run a manga reading poll. That would be a way to knock out everything because I'm gonna watch JoJo's. But we'll see. We'll play it by ear on some of those things. Thank you to all of you for voting. Thanks for being on the channel. Subscribe and like the channel and the video and stuff, but sign up for the Patreon on the 1st, please. Not now. I don't want to have to refund a bunch of you, and I will if you sign up. I'll refund you because that's what my policy is if you sign up after the 25th, I'll give you a refund. But just sign up after the 1st, and we don't have to worry about it. Okay, perfect. Love y'all. Peace.